Coming to you live from $1 Million Studios, it's your boys, Chris Speez,
a.k.a. the Speez, a.k.a. Speezy Does It,
and the benchmark of professional wrestling, Mr. Silky Baines,
a.k.a. Black Excellence.
Speez of the Benchmark Show on a Thursday night, July the 5th, 2018. We are glad to have you with us. Hope you had a good Independence Day. Hope everybody had some barbecue, some fireworks, didn't blow any hands off or anything like that.
No Jason Pierre-Paul.
No, none of that stuff for sure. And while you guys are here, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn those notifications on so you know all about us and you're ready to join us anytime we go live right here on the Speez and the Benchmark Show. So, okay, how was your 4th of July, sir?
Oh, it was great. Kids at the pool, drinking, just having a good time.
The kids were
them.
at the pool drinking?
Well, yes, because that's the kind of parent I am.
You were drinking.
Do not get CPS up in my life. The kids were in the pool. I was sitting around drinking.
Gotcha. Okay, just wanted to be sure.
Because,
you know, you can't have any of that stuff going
Yeah.
on. So anyway, we are here to talk the G1 special. We got the G1 special coming up from the Cow Palace in San Francisco this Saturday night. Going to be available for the folks here in the U.S. to watch live, and quite a good card that they have on hand for you. So we're going to run down some of those matches as well as some of the things that went down in WWE this week. We got our first match announcement for All In, and we also got a match announcement for the Chris Jericho Cruise, our first Impact versus Ring of Honor match announced there. So plenty for us to talk about, and of course we want to hear from you guys. So if you want to chime in on the chat or just have a listen, it's okay with us either way, because we like to hear ourselves talk. It's kind of what we do.
Yeah, it's kind of what we do.
Let's kick things off with this Saturday. Of course, the match everybody is talking about, Kenny Omega's first defense of the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against Cody. And Kenny put out a tweet before saying that, obviously this is a huge match, not only for his newly won IWGP Heavyweight Championship, but for ownership or leadership, should I say, of the Bullet Club as well. Now, you mentioned before when we talked about this on the podcast that you thought it was a little too early to go to Omega and Cody. Tell the people why you feel that way.
I mean, because that's the biggest thing coming, or the biggest thing going in New Japan right now, is that feud for leadership, or it's not even really, it's surpassed the leadership part of the Bullet Club. It's just two of these guys, alpha dogs, trying to go at it. And so I felt like, me personally, and I know we don't like to get into the booking aspect, but as someone who books a show, I generally look at it from a booking standpoint, and that's your big money match. So I would do that match instead of on this G1 special, because people are going to tune in to see Omega's first title defense, no matter who the fuck you put him against.
Because it was such a big deal that he finally won it in the first place.
Exactly. So
people are going to want to watch it.
That's how I wouldn't maybe like a Dominion next year, or me personally, biggest show, Wrestle Kingdom. I have Cody win the G1, and then Wrestle Kingdom, it's Cody and Omega for the title, and they have a knockdown brawl, and just that's how I would do it. So I still think though it's just too early, like, because if Cody can't win this one, you know what I mean?
He can. He probably won't.
Yeah, but from just the looking aspect, it's like there's no way Omega's going to lose in his first title defense. So then you go in knowing Omega's going to win. And then that takes, when you can't possibly think of the other guy winning, it kind of takes a little bit off the match, in my opinion.
Well, sure. But we know that about a lot of different matches. I see where you're going with this, and it's actually kind of surprising that, as you say, I don't know that I agree 100%, that New Japan sort of dropped the ball in terms of booking this match as soon as they did. I do tend to agree with you that this is one that you could have waited on, but by the same token, they haven't really revisited, and I suppose this was more of a Ring of Honor thing, because we saw it at...
We all know my standpoint on that.
Right. We saw it at the Ring of Honor show, WrestleMania weekend, where Cody and Kenny had their last match. The Young Bucks run in. They try to take out Cody. They mistakenly take out Kenny. And, we haven't really revisited those two in the ring since then. So I'm with you in that it seems a bit early to book that match in terms of... we've just come away from New Japan doing such a spectacular job with the way that they booked the Omega and Okada matches.
Yes.
I mean, that 4-match run that those guys had was superb. And if you're going to change a major title like that, like the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, that's the way to do it. They knocked it out of the park, and I don't think there's anybody who would complain about the way that went down. So again, to have them sort of rush this title match against Cody, it did kind of come out of left field. I'm with you on that one. I kind of would have liked to see a bit more of a build to it.
Yeah, I mean, the build, and maybe, because your first few defenses for Omega should just be defenses to establish him as champ. Because the title already has prestige, so you don't need to build prestige, but you need to build his reign. So, maybe like a Goto or an Ishii, someone that he'll have a great match with, maybe an Elgin, put him over, and then a few of those, and then start pushing for the Cody and the Omega.
Yeah, and David says it's going to be a great match. I totally agree with you. I think that you don't necessarily have to feed Omega, some easy title wins, because that's not the way they booked that title over there.
It's not; those aren't easy wins. If you've watched any of the matches like he's had with Goto, the matches he had with Ishii, just the G1 final.
Right. No, I'm not saying they're going to be easy wins for him. My point is, I think anybody who watches that promotion and who has kept up with Kenny Omega in that promotion has to be under the impression, as you are, and I agree, that he's going to win at least his first title defense. You would think that was the case anyway. So you have to believe that whoever they put him in against, you could call it, quote unquote, an easy win, because you're expecting him to win it. Now, I'm just thinking of this as we're spitballing here, and as we're talking about it as we go through it. Perhaps that's why they put Cody in this match to begin with, because people are saying, oh, well, it's first title defense. He's not going to lose on his very first title defense. Well, maybe that's why you put him in against a guy like Cody. You put him in against a guy that could legitimately beat him, even though we still don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But could that be the thinking behind it?
No, because that's completely asinine and stupid, because Ishii could conceivably beat him. Goto could conceivably beat him.
But he doesn't have it. But he doesn't have a background with those guys, and we haven't been building those stories like we've been building. This story.
We haven't. But if you just talk about who could conceivably beat him, there's a lot of guys on the roster that you could. Hell, I would have put him against Jay White, the U.S. champ.
Yeah.
Jay White beat him.
The rematch after he lost the U.S. title to him. Yeah, that would have been a great match.
Yeah. That doesn't need much build-up, because it's there's two champions going at it. You play a bunch of spots of showing how Jay White duped him into believing he was going to join the Bullet Club, and then turned on him, then joined up with Chaos, and then beat him for the U.S. title. You can play all of that to build up, okay, now you play, even though he's your champ, you put him in a role of wow, could he beat this guy? He didn't do it the last time. And
now here's an interesting question. I have a question for you, actually, because when we went to the Ring of Honor show in San Antonio, we had the good fortune, for those of you that didn't join us before, of getting to work backstage, getting to meet a lot of the guys at Ring of Honor. And one of the things that we talked about was Cody and his status as a heel or a face in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
He is somewhat of a...
He's pretty much face in Ring of Honor.
See, now, to hear you say that, it's interesting, because when you go back to WrestleMania weekend, was he a face at WrestleMania weekend when he fought Kenny Omega? He most definitely was not.
But things have changed since then.
I was going to say, so we're seeing some of the similar... One of the complaints that I have, anyway, about the way WWE books some of their superstars, in that we don't really know whether or not somebody's a heel or a face. It's not to that... it's not as big a problem here, but it's interesting, I think, the way that Cody kind of ping-pongs back and forth between being a guy who's obviously over with the crowd, and in a lot of people's minds may be considered a face in Ring of Honor.
Yeah.
Clearly not going to be a face in this match, and not going to be a face in New Japan.
Exactly. But it's two different companies at the end of the day.
So what happens when we have these New Japan Ring of Honor crossovers? What happens with a guy like Cody? See, this is where I have an issue with these kinds of tweener kind of characters. It makes it difficult.
Well, you put him against, depending on what storyline you're wanting to push more, his Ring of Honor stuff or his New Japan. If it's his New Japan stuff, you put him in with the face from New Japan, and then the crowd hates him. If it's the Ring of Honor stuff, you put him in with a heel from Ring of Honor. Put him in with a Bully Ray. and then boom, heel heat, or face pop. So that's how you would have to do it.
Are you giving Cody any chance at winning this match at all?
No
chance at all.
No, because it's the first title defense. It's not. I don't not give to Cody can beat him on any day of the week. They're both extremely talented at what they do. So when I say Cody doesn't have a shot, it's more from a booking standpoint versus more than his actual wrestling acumen.
Yeah, see, there's something in the back of my mind for some reason, and I don't know why. I think it would be completely insane.
So are you trying to tell me you have a white version of Negro Diamonds moment?
I'm not having that moment. It's not quite that powerful to where we would actually play the music. But I don't know, man. It just... And again, props to them in a certain regard, because it's at least got knuckleheads like me thinking, maybe he pulls this off. Maybe it actually happens.
And I'm not going to lie, because I kind of thought, well, now that the Ring of Honor went out the window with Jay Lethal, which congrats to Jay Lethal for winning the Ring of Honor world title again.
Second time, yes. Jay Lethal, very, very impressive.
So with that now out of the window, maybe he wins the IWGP and goes into All In to face IWGP versus NWA World Champion.
Now, for those of you who didn't catch up on this particular development, if you've been listening to our podcast, we've mentioned it here. Nick Aldis talked about at the All In press conference about how he wanted to defend the NWA title against Cody, but only if Cody was the ROH heavyweight champion. It would be title versus title. We immediately said, well, they kind of screwed the pooch on that one, because one of two things is going to happen. Either Cody's going to win the Ring of Honor title, and they basically just let out a huge spoiler there, because we all knew it was coming, or he's not going to win the Ring of Honor title, and then that match is kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
So now, do you maybe make it to where Cody wins the IWGP title? I don't think New Japan in any way books their shows or books their promotion to help All In or around what these guys are doing with All In. Now, that's not to say it couldn't happen.
Not to say it couldn't, and not to say they wouldn't, because a big deal of their American fan base is due strictly to Cody, Omega, and the Bullet Club.
This is true.
As much as you don't like the whole Bullet Club thing, you can't deny that for the American fan base, that's why the American fan base watches.
Oh, no, they're a great faction, and I'm not going to take away from what the faction has accomplished. And it just, for me personally, those guys, I enjoy those guys, but, it's not particularly my thing. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting. I'm curious to see how much of Ring of Honor and how much of New Japan is willing to work with those guys in terms of the setup for All In. Since All In is just a standalone show, how much of those promotions are willing, how many of the guys in the back are willing to say, you know what, these are our biggest stars, these are our biggest guys. A lot of what they've been able to accomplish is based on the fact that we put them over like crazy. We'll throw them a bone here. We'll help them out with this. We'll help them out with that. Is any of that going to happen?
I don't know. it could be almost like a wrestling version of a bidding war too, because either one of them would love, especially selling out like that. Any one of them would love All In to be a branded event. So who says that they don't go in the mindset, well, the more I'm going to try to help them out as much as possible, so afterwards we can talk about Ring of Honor presents All In 2.
Yeah, it could be something like that.
New Japan presents the All In special.
Yeah, I don't see that, especially with New Japan, because I think, this G1 special is the second G1 special, I believe, that they've done. Didn't they do one last year as well?
Yeah, it's Strong Style Evolved.
Yeah, so, New Japan's starting to, with the opening of the dojo in Los Angeles, and they're sort of starting that westward expansion a little bit.
But, that's not All In.
No, that's true. This is true.
That's still, All In far surpassed what they did at Strong Style Evolved, as far as just ticket sales.
Oh, it was insane. It was completely insane.
So I don't. Why would you, if you're in New Japan, run the people who hold the power in New Japan? Why wouldn't you want? Because why wouldn't you want them to make All In a New Japan branded show, and basically buy the show from them? You make everyone walks away happy.
Yeah, it's
Cody
doable.
And the Young Bucks make Scrooge McDuck sums of money, and they get a branded show here in America that's going to sell out 10,000 or more, and then you start, of course they're going to start up in the ante because, I mean, that's the nature of the business. I say that next time they should try to shoot for like a 15 or 20,000 seat arena to sell out.
Oh, I think they will. If they continue to go that route. If they do it again next year. Now, before we get to the rest of the G1 special here, hey, what's going on, Brooke? Good to see you here. She loves the Seth Rollins shirt. She has that as well. So, Silky likes to wear this shirt because we went to Monday Night Raw and I tried to get this Burn It Down shirt for my son David, and they didn't have it. So I told Silky, it's kind of disappointing. I sure would have liked to get that for David. The next night he shows up to record the podcast wearing the shirt that I couldn't get for my 13-year-old son to taunt him, because that's the kind of guy that the benchmark of professional wrestling is.
I am a lovable asshole.
Taunting small children. That's always a good thing. Now, before we get on to the rest of the card for the G1 special, since we're on the topic of All In, we did get our first All In match announcement earlier today. It is going to be former IWGP Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada taking on the villain Marty Scurll. Your take on Marty Scurll against Kazuchika Okada at All In.
It's going to be a great match. It's a great way to kick off the show. I mean, they're both insanely over. Well, more Scurll than Okada, at least here.
I think Okada will be over huge here because they don't get to see him very often.
Exactly. So, I mean, and it's just good Bullet Club. You start off the show with your people, and I
don't know that that's going to open the show. I know that was the first official match that they announced. Now, we haven't heard whether or not that's actually going to kick off, whether that's going to jerk the curtain or not. But in terms of those two guys going at it, let me ask you this. What do you think is going to happen with Okada's character now that he's not the IWGP Heavyweight Champion anymore? Do we see more? Because let's face it, he did sort of assume a bit of a heelish stand when he fought Kenny Omega in that last match, because so many people wanted to see Omega finally go over in that match.
Yeah.
If you go back and watch that, the way Okada played to the crowd, he kind of played this arrogant, asshole, and you could almost say that he was, playing a bit of the heel to those the crowd there. Are we going to see more of a heelish type from Okada, or do you think that he stays the course and sort of does what he's been doing?
I think you do see a heelish, but I mean, in reference to your question about what I think about what's going to happen with Okada, I think I mentioned it on the podcast, my Negro Diamonds moment of him becoming the Intercontinental Champion. I think that this whole thing, Jericho, because the New Japan, like if you watch the Access show, the newer ones, it features 4 guys in the opening: Naito, Omega, Tanahashi, and Okada. So Jericho came in, he fought Omega, he fought Naito. I think he ended up defending against Tanahashi and winning, and then going through to the 4th one and ends up dropping it to Okada. So that's my prediction of what.
Are you going official Negro Damas on this?
I'm going official Negro Damas.
Official Negro Damas. You are saying?
I'm saying that Okada will eventually, in the near future, be, well, near as New Japan does it, so maybe a year from now, who knows, but will be the Intercontinental Champion.
There's your Negro Damas moment right there from the Benchmark Silky Baines, calling Okada the new IWGP Intercontinental Champion. I'm not so sure how I feel about this match. I really enjoy what I see from Marty Scurll. Is that the Rainmaker? Yes, Okada Brooke is the Rainmaker. Yes, the former IWGP champion, going to be taking on the villain Marty Scurll, who, as long as I've said this before, as long as he's not in the ring singing pop tunes and such, I like the villain character. But again, he's a villain that people love.
Yeah, it's Stone Cold.
I want to see the old school.
I mean, you can't really. I don't know if you can do that with him now.
No, I don't think so.
Unless
unless he turns on fellow Bullet Club guys,
or
you can see that happening.
Shits on a baby or something stupid like that.
Where would you come up with?
I don't know. I mean, it's just a vile thing to do that would get people to hate you. Would you like someone who shit on a baby?
No,
exactly.
I would never even think to suggest that someone would actually do that.
But
I can't even bring myself to say the phrase.
What, shit on a baby?
Oh my good God.
I mean, but it's true though. That's something that universally is bad.
That would be frowned upon in most establishments. Yes, it would be.
So that's about the only thing he's going to do to fully go heel and get people to hate him.
All right. Well, we'll keep our eyes out for keep our eyes open for that, and hopefully never see it. I'm looking forward to more matches, being announced for the All-In show.
Definitely. Because we've seen all the people put their All In and their little graphics, but to see how the show comes together,
who's going to be fighting who, and so on. And we also got word that SoCal Uncensored will be there as well.
SCU,
another good addition to the All-In program. Let's get back to our G1 special. We've talked about the main event, Kenny Omega versus Cody for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. We've also got the U.S. Championship on the line with Jay White against Juice Robinson. How you feeling about Jay White's chances against Juice Robinson? Take a swig of your drink there, and I will remind the folks as you're doing so to make sure to hit that subscribe button.
Boom.
And join us here every Monday night after Monday Night Raw and every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central right here on the Speez and the Benchmark show here on the YouTube channel. And click that like button here if you're enjoying what you're hearing.
Click the bell so you can get notified every
those
time
notifications. Yes. So back to this U.S. Heavyweight Championship match, Jay White, Juice Robinson.
I think I'm going with Juice.
You're going with Juice, really?
I'm going with Juice. The juice will be loose.
He looked good in the New Japan Cup.
He did.
He often looks good.
And in the G1.
Yeah, he's been solid.
So I think it's his time. They've done the story of him, getting right to the cusp and then losing.
Coming up short.
Yeah, coming up short. And, he's he's the white meat baby face. He's never making any excuses. He's just like, I came up short. So I think this is his time.
Which I've always appreciated about his character.
Yeah, and his promos have been on point.
He's a lot more fired up than you see the typical New Japan wrestler, in that he's really trying to get that crowd. And again, one of the things I really enjoy about the New Japan crowd, they clap when they're supposed to clap, and they just shut up the rest of the time and sit and enjoy the matches, as you and I both wish a lot of other crowds would do. But Juice really does get the crowd fired up. He's one of those fiery kind of guys. I enjoy watching him. He's entertaining as hell in the ring. But I will say this, after being somewhat surprised when Jay White beat Kenny Omega for that title, he's been crazy impressive.
No, Jay, and that's not,
and not to say that he wasn't before.
Yeah, and that's not taking me saying that he's going to lose the title. That's not saying it's because anything like Jay White just can't cut the mustard as champ.
Yeah, you're not knocking him.
You got to think, right now, he is the longest reigning champion in New Japan.
That's crazy to think about. That's crazy. Well, mostly because on the last show, freaking every title chance just about, it was nuts.
But his didn't.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And he's put back challenger after challengers. He's had match after match that were great. But I think at a certain point, it comes time. I think it's time for him to move up to, if the belt's hierarchy, I'm assuming the IC title would be above
next in line. Yeah, with the U.S. title being relatively new.
Yeah. So I would say go again. I would say he drops it to Juice because this is a good title. And plus, Juice is fucking American.
It would be nice to have an American actually win
to have
the
a
U.S.
champion that is from the United fucking States. In WWE, they have a United Kingdom champion, and it's held by someone from the fucking United Kingdom.
Hey, I will say this.
It's rare that a guy that's not from the United Kingdom gets a match.
Hey, I'll tell you this. Still one of my favorite angles of the last couple of years was Kevin Owens being the face of America when he was the U.S. champion.
America.
So great. And that's just because I'm such a Kevin Owens mark, but I really enjoyed that very much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that match. And I'll say this about this G1 special this weekend in San Francisco. One of my big knocks against New Japan is I'm not a fan of the multi-man matches and the overabundance of multi-man matches. Looking at the card here, there's 4 solo matches on this card, and all 4 of them are outstanding. We've already talked about Omega versus Cody. We talked about Jay White taking on Juice Robinson for the U.S. Championship. You've also got Hiromu Takahashi against Dragon Lee for the Junior Heavyweight Championship match. Now, I will, full disclosure here, have not seen a lot of either of these guys, much more of Takahashi than I have of Dragon Lee.
Yeah, but Dragon Lee is kind of like a Kalisto type, where he's short, but he's way more cut, but extremely athletic.
Crazy athletic.
They've actually, at Strong Style Evolve, if you go back and watch that, they were on opposite sides of that a multi-man match. And, like, they have natural heat because of Dragon Leech from CMLL. And, you know, Takahashi, when he left, did his excursion in CMLL. They had a lot of heat there, and they brought it over. So this will be like pretty much a brutal, like, they're going to fight.
That's another well-booked feud, you know, when you look at the history between these two guys and then sort of recalling that history in the new promotion.
Yeah.
That's very cool. I'm glad to hear, Brooke, that you're going to check this out because that's one of the things we like to do here on the show is turn people on to new promotions. You know, a lot of people think the beginning and end of wrestling is WWE, but there's a lot of great stuff out there. And I think this weekend's show will be no exception. So the fourth one-on-one match that we're going to talk about here is for the Never Openweight Championship. You've got Hiroki Goto taking on Jeff Cobb. I'm a big Jeff Cobb fan. I think that guy's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the fact that he's such a bulky guy. I mean, he's
short.
He's like a fucking bowling ball.
Yeah.
But that guy can go.
He
is
definitely
oh
go.
my goodness.
And
he is
he's
so
athletic
good.
as shit.
He's so athletic. So this is one of my matches that I feel like could really come in and steal the show. I mean, these two guys are going to put on a clinic.
Yeah, it's going to be hard hitting because, I mean, I just found out Goto won the fucking title back.
Yeah, it was after Michael Elgin took it, a month ago? I mean, it wasn't very long ago.
Not even a month ago. It was like maybe a few weeks.
That's right, because we were watching it over at your place when it happened.
Yeah. So and then to have, you know, this first match against Cobb, I'm very excited for that. I mean, just the brutality versus the athleticism.
Yeah, Jeff Cobb just really impresses the shit out of me, man. You know, you've got Keith Lee making his way over to NXT.
Yes.
We just saw War Machine come over to NXT.
Great guys.
A handful of guys who are big, crazy athletic. We had Shane Taylor on our show,
yes.
The last podcast episode that we recorded. Make sure to check that one out if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Another big guy.
Another great guy.
Who's very athletic. I think you can put Jeff Cobb in the same vein as those guys. You know, he's not quite as big.
Yeah.
But
it's more height. I mean, he's jacked.
Bulk-wise, yeah.
He's bulky, but
oh, my goodness.
If he had a little more height on him, I mean, Vince would probably snatch him up in a second.
I think so as well, because he is very impressive.
Yeah, just go back and look at some of the matches, the Keith Lee and Jeff Cobb matches.
Oh, yeah, and I believe they had one. I know they've both been down here to Austin at Wrestle Circus. I don't know if those two faced each other there.
I don't know if they faced each other there.
But oh, man, I'm a big Jeff Cobb fan. I'm looking forward to that match. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Brooke asks if JR still does the commentary for New Japan.
Yes, he does.
He does the Access show.
Yeah, he does the Access show. And so
you've got Kevin Kelly and Don Callis on the live shows.
Live if you have New Japan World, and choose the American commentary, the English commentary, it'll be Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. But when they re-air those shows on Access TV, it's Josh Barnett and Jim Ross.
And Jim Ross, for sure. So we've talked about the solo matches coming up this weekend at the G1 Classic in San Francisco. Let's move on to some of the tag team action we're going to be seeing.
Before that, Finn has not won the G1. He won the Best of the Super Juniors.
Best of the Super Juniors, right. That's from David and Brooke having a little side conversation here about Finn Balor. Yeah, won the Best of the Super Juniors a couple times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
first person to go undefeated in the Best of the Super Juniors.
In the Prince Devitt days when he was killing it. So let's get on to the tag team action. First up, of course, the new IWGP Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks. Now, I'm not going to too-sweet you. I'm not going to too-sweet you because Nick Jackson still has blocked me on Twitter. I don't know why. Nick, I know you're watching. I don't know what I did to offend you, sir. But
maybe it's because you refused to too-sweet.
I'm not going to too-sweet. No, I'm not going to do it. I did one too-sweet, and it was to Sting when he was in his NWO Wolfpack gear at WrestleCon this year, and it was because my son said, "Dad, you got to give Sting a too-sweet."
You've got to too-sweet.
I'm not going to too-sweet you now.
You know what?
We are going to talk about the Young Bucks against Evil and Sonata. Now, Bucks.
Even David said do it. Come on.
Of course David does. That's my son, and of course he wants me to do it. We're not going to do the too-sweet. We're going to talk about the Young Bucks and Evil and Sonata here. So, Young Bucks, of course, multi-time, seven-time junior heavyweight tag, or junior tag team champions. And now they're up in the heavyweight division, and
even Brooke is saying, come on.
We're not going to do it, man. This is going to be one of those slow burns where you guys are going to have to watch and stay tuned for me to actually drop a too sweet on Silky here.
But
Young Bucks versus Evil and Sonata. I wasn't a big fan of the Young Bucks winning the heavyweight tag titles
they did
right
good
off the bat.
Yeah, in the first match. But, I mean, it was good. I mean, Evil and Sonata had it for a while, so I think that it was a good move for them to do it.
That's
and plus,
fair. It's fair.
It's become second team to actually ever win the junior and the heavyweight tag team champion.
The first team being?
First team being No Limit, which was made up of Yujiro Takahashi, who is now the Tokyo Pimp in the Bullet Club.
The Tokyo Pimp.
And Tatsuya Naito of LIJ.
There you go.
Just dropping more knowledge.
Yeah,
wrestling knowledge.
Evil and Sonata, I enjoy both of those guys.
Yes.
I like their match that they've had before. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm calling Bullet Club.
Watch out, Mike's going. Oh, yeah, we almost had a mic droppage there, man.
Yeah, I was going to do that. That was my slick way of trying to do a mic drop. But anyway, I'm going with Young Bucks.
Yeah,
just
Young
because
Bucks are going to win this one.
First defense, and I'm a big Sonata fan.
I know that you picked him in the New Japan Cup this year.
Yeah, and New Japan really cocked me over.
No, you got to the semifinals. That was not a bad run.
It was not.
Not quite as good as my pick, Tanahashi, making it to the finals, but, you know.
Anyway, but I'm a big Sonata fan, so I would like to see him go off and do more on the singles.
Not a lot of opportunities for that, unfortunately, in New Japan because there's a bajillion tag team matches, but should be entertaining nonetheless. The Young Bucks, we got to see them up close and personal. Everybody knows those guys. They don't have letdowns in terms of their matches. If you're a fan of their matches, you're going to love all their matches because they don't mail it in. It's one thing you can say about those guys. They're definitely not going to do that. You've also got Will Ospreay and Okada taking on Bushi and Tetsuya Naito in another tag team match.
Chaos versus Los Ingobernables.
I like the Chaos matchup of Ospreay and Okada. I think both of those guys are crazy entertaining. I'm going to continue to, say my prayers for Ospreay that he doesn't fucking kill himself because the guy is still completely insane with the stuff that he does. And you got to think, I didn't see his matches when he came over here in April, when he came over to New Orleans, which if you'll recall was shortly after he damn near broke his neck in the match against Marty Scurll, doing the Spanish fly off the ring apron and just landed horribly. And I literally thought the guy had broken his neck. Came to America, did his thing that weekend in New Orleans. I'm curious, what do you think we see from Ospreay, given that he's not on this side of the pond as often as some of the other guys that we may be seeing? Do you think he just goes balls to the wall and that we're going to see absolutely everything spectacular in the book that we've ever seen from Ospreay? We're going to see it this weekend because he's in the U.S.
No.
You don't think so? Why is that?
No, I mean, because just the matchup that they're having right now, I don't think it calls for that. I think he will pull out a lot of cool stuff, and it will be done in a way that makes it look like he's trying to pull out everything to get the win. But in a tag team match, I don't think so. See,
I disagree, and here's why. One of the things that I always liked about pro athletes in general is that there are a handful of guys, and they'll go out of their way to say this, and for some of them it's just a talking point, but I've always appreciated guys who have approached whatever athletic event it happens to be in this way. They'll say, I have to go out there and I can't take a night off because there's somebody out there who's seeing me for the first time, and it's going to be their only opportunity to see me. And so I've got to give them my all. I got to give them my best effort every time. I love guys who approach their jobs in athletics that way. I think Ospreay is one of those guys. I think Ospreay is somebody who thinks, and obviously I'm not in his head, I have no idea what he actually thinks, but I think that in the back of his mind, he's saying to himself, you know what, I'm not over here very often. This is a big deal. This is a big deal for my company. This is a big deal for me personally. I'm teamed up with one of the most decorated wrestlers in the history of this promotion in Okada. Not that he hasn't been in tag team matches with Okada before, but I really do think that we could be in something very, very special could be in the works this weekend from Ospreay. I expect him to just go ballistic.
No, I mean, I expect him to have a great, like you say, he doesn't phone in any performances either. But as far as who he's working with, I don't think I don't see that because Bushi is not one of those flying around juniors.
This is true.
And neither is Naito, which is, I guess, technically he's considered heavyweight. He's competing in the heavyweight division. So
True.
I don't see that, what you're saying, happening. If he was wrestling like a Takahashi or, hell, put in that match with Takahashi and Dragon Lee, then yes. He's doing everything short of killing himself.
He doesn't necessarily need the other guy to do some of his spectacular Daredevil shit. Yes, Brooke, you're asking if Ospreay is a Daredevil. He's a complete maniac in the ring. A lot of us worry for his safety with some of the shit that he does.
JR said it best. He's like a supernova. He burns really bright, but it's probably going to be for a short amount of time, especially with the risk he's taking.
I think it was Kevin Kelly actually said that on one of the shows that you and I were watching together. Man, some of the risks he takes are just absolutely insane. But again, he's one of those guys that says, these fans paid to see me go balls to the wall. These fans paid to see me do something spectacular, and that's what I'm going to do. David says the solution is to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.
Yep.
So I guess that's what he'll do. Who do you like in this one? You got Chaos or you got Los Ingobernables?
I'm going with LIJ.
Going with LIJ in this one?
Just because of the fact that Chaos is not really much of a faction when you think about it. They're the only group in New Japan who don't second each other, who don't. Outside of this, you will not see, like, Okada's matches, you won't see anyone else from Chaos. But LIJ, Naito, you'll see Bushi, you'll see Evil and Sonata. You know what I mean?
Fair enough. I think this is going to be a face heavy show. I think a lot more of the faces are going to be coming away with wins in this show than.
But then that brings that another question: who the fuck is the face in this match? Because Naito looks extremely over, and so is Okada.
Yeah,
and
true.
Ospreay.
This is true. Again, this is one of my problems with the way wrestling is booked these days. I'd like to see more just straightforward. Again, I think the best story in wrestling right now is Gargano and Ciampa, and it couldn't be more clear. Although things were kind of wonky on NXT on Wednesday, could be more clear who the heel and the face is, and that story works beautifully. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
But who are you going with?
I'm gonna go with Chaos on this one. I think Ospreay and Okada get the win here. Again, I think it's a face heavy show. I think those guys come away with the win. You've got Kushida and Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Hangman Page and Marty Scurll, a couple of guys that we saw up close at Ring of Honor in San Antonio not too long ago. I like this matchup as well. I love the fact that Tanahashi is coming here. Tanahashi, who is on the podcast. Lent his voice to our program, so we're always grateful to him for that. I love that the American fans are going to get another look at Tanahashi. He's a lot of fun. Japanese John Cena, as you've called him before.
Yes.
But I like the tag team of Hangman Page and Marty Scurll. Who do you give the edge to in this one?
On this one, I got to go Bullet Club. Just for the fact that it's Bullet Club. They more of a team than Kushida and Tanahashi, which they have teamed before. I mean, they are Taguchi Japan members. So. And
Tanahashi, not a spring chicken anymore either.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting up there himself. So not to say that has a ton to do with the way that he's booked these days.
Yeah. But I say that it's going to be Hangman Page and Scurll.
And I want to say this to those of you who are watching who are fans of the Bullet Club and particularly Hangman Page. One of the things that I really appreciated about him at the San Antonio show was when that show was over, the last guy to walk off of that stage and go back and change was Hangman Page. He hung around and signed every autograph for every fan, took pictures, took selfies, the whole nine. He was a spectacular guy. The fans loved him. I thought that was a classy move on his part. So
great guy.
Yeah, seems like an absolutely great guy. So good for him for doing that. No, Brooke, there are not women wrestlers in New Japan. There's another promotion for the women over in Japan, but no female wrestlers in New Japan, so we won't be seeing any of them on this card either. So another tag team match. We've got Toru Yano and Ishii versus Zack Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki. Love Sabre Jr. and Minoru Suzuki. Just going to get my pick out of the way right now. I'm going with those guys because I think Zack Sabre Jr. is spectacular. His New Japan Cup this year was absolutely sensational. We said from day one that there should be no fucking way that he came out of his end of the bracket, and he did.
Yes.
With two enormous wins over Naito and... Why am I drawing a blank on the name that he beat? Golden Lovers. Ibushi. God, why am I forgetting?
Yeah, he beat Naito. He beat Ibushi.
Naito and Ibushi in the first two rounds, and then beating Tanahashi in the finals. Man, it was an absolutely sensational run. So I love Zack Sabre Jr.
Submitted Tanahashi, man.
Yeah,
and
no doubt.
Submitted all of them, technically.
I mean, that guy's just some of the shit that he pulls. I mean,
yeah, it's just
best technical wrestler on the planet.
He is.
And Suzuki is in his 50s now, I believe, or 50 years old.
Suzuki is like throwback to the old school heels. It's like,
so good.
Yeah, you look at him and he has that aura of like, this dude might fuck you up just for looking at him wrong.
Absolutely. And that was one of the crazy things. I got the chance to meet him at WrestleCon this year, and I walked up to him to get his autograph, and he had the IWGP Intercontinental Championship belt there with him. And the very first thing that he did, and I got to tell you, he's one of those guys that I was kind of nervous about going up and talking to. I was kind of cautious approaching him. Just threw the IWGP belt right on my shoulder, put his arm around me, and smiled, took a picture. Like, couldn't have been a nicer guy. Yeah. Which, in retrospect, I kind of thought, I kind of wish he was more of a dick. He's supposed to be a heel, but it was nice that he was such a cool guy.
I wouldn't.
I love watching both of those guys.
Yeah.
I think they're fantastic, man. They're so good.
Yeah, there's just no way that Yano and Ishii win this match. I mean,
I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. So last but not least, we've got the first match of the night. This is an 8-man tag team match. No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at this wrong. It is a 10-man tag team match. Sho and Yo, Rocky Romero, Gato, and Yoshihashi taking on Chase Owens, Yujiro Takahashi, Tangaloa, Tama Tonga, and King Haku.
Bullet Club.
Love me some Tama Tonga.
Yes.
I think that guy is a badass.
And if you remember, throwback to the podcast, I called that, I think, before this is all done, while everyone's talking about Cody and Kenny, who's leading the Bullet Club, I think Tama Tonga is going to end up leading the Bullet Club.
Oh, the OG Bullet Club. I would love to see it, man. And somebody super kicking it with Kelsey, one of our buddies who is going to be joining us here on the program in the near future. We're big fans of her. Check out her channel, Super Kicking It with Kelsey, here on YouTube. She mentioned this on Twitter, and I thought this was a good comparison, not necessarily in the way that I would book these guys, but she said that one of the reasons that she's such a big Tama Tonga fan is because he's very similar in look and build to Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But if you look at the way he carries himself and the way his character is, he is straight up full on badass.
Yeah.
And it's believable. It's like, this is me all the time. I'm a full-on badass. That's the way that it is.
I wanted to get to that. Brooke, no, it's not Kenzo Suzuki. It's Minoru Suzuki. It's two different guys.
Yes.
They're two different guys.
And she said that was one of the things that she didn't like about Roman Reigns was that he was, a little bit more cookie cutter. But you look at a guy like Tama Tonga, man, I mean, just another one of those guys. I put him up there with Suzuki as one of those guys that I just, every time I see that guy, I go, that's what a fucking heel's supposed to look like. That's what a badass is supposed to look like. Like, he's got it, man.
Yeah.
He's got it.
So, who are you going with this?
I'm going with Bullet Club. I'm going with Bullet Club in this one.
Yeah, you gotta go. I mean, you don't bring Haku out. Haku.
Yeah, exactly.
And then not put them over. So, I mean, Roppongi
for those that don't know, how old is Haku now?
Shit, I don't know. Probably like in his mid-50s too.
You got to think he is. And that crew,
he's been wrestling since the 80s.
I was going to say, and Haku is one of those guys that has a reputation of being one of the most brutal and one of the strongest and just absolute biggest real life badasses in all of wrestling.
I'll never forget. I got a chance early in my career. I did the Legends tour with a bunch of WWE guys, and sitting in the car with Barbarian, and he was just telling me about how brutal the matches were. Like, they would legit headbutt each other as hard as possible.
It's crazy.
In the match. And, like, he's literally witnessed Haku literally almost trying to kill someone, like rip out his fucking throat.
Yeah, I believe this is the same story I heard of is this the one where he actually pulled the guy's teeth out?
Yeah, he was.
There's a story where Haku got into a fight with somebody, and this guy came at him, and Haku just literally reached into his mouth and yanked a couple of this guy's teeth directly out of his mouth.
Yeah, he was a bad
just
motherfucker.
Insane, man.
Yes, but I mean,
holy
he's one of those
dude.
guys that is, if you're good, if he likes you, you are great.
You are great, and he's going to take good care of you.
Yes.
Because you don't stick around, and you can speak to this a lot more than I can, being a wrestler for as long as you have been. you don't stick around in this industry beating people up for real.
No.
You stick around by taking care of people and making sure that you don't legitimately hurt them and legitimately fuck up their money by putting them out of action. So
so I mean, that was a trip. I mean, I think I wrestled Heidenreich.
Oh,
Remember
wow.
Heidenreich?
Yeah.
And like that dude was legit, like coolest guy in the world, but also might have been a little off. Like I watched before we went out to wrestle, I saw him punch a plate glass window and just shatter it, and then turn around and just calm as can be, shake my hands like, all right.
Like, no big deal, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and then I'm like,
what I do.
I'm going to fucking die. This is where I die.
This is where I die.
So, then Demolition was on the tour, Tito Santana. It was pretty cool. That was one of my favorite experiences in wrestling.
I can imagine.
Getting to do that.
I can imagine. There's a lot of great names on that card.
Let's get to, not Yoshitatsu is not Yoshihashi. They do sound similar, but Yoshitatsu is in New Japan wrestling as Yoshitatsu.
Well, there you go. So that's easy enough to figure out.
They just put it all together.
Brooke was asking what happened to Yoshitatsu. And before we now that we've talked about this card, I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to getting to actually watch a New Japan card live and not have to be up at 3:00 in the morning to watch it. So that's going to be
and
exciting.
actually getting to finish because
we
tried to watch the Minion and he couldn't hang because he had some other.
It's
sad when life gets in the way of watching wrestling, and you're like, well, I can't.
And you're watching it on tape for no less. I mean,
we're watching it at home. I recorded it. No, I didn't record it. I used my brother's access.
You mean he used Silky used his access?
Yeah. No, fuck that. I little Dickie to access. I gotta save that money. Anyway, and we were watching it, and it's just like life gets in the way. He was at my house for like 4 or 5 hours, and we still hadn't finished the whole show.
Hadn't finished it. We still hadn't even started the Omega and Okada match, which we knew was going to go over an hour to begin with. So, I mean, you're literally dedicating an entire half a day to sit there and watch wrestling.
Which the access ones aren't going to be. It's going to be like a normal pay-per-view, like 2 hours, I think.
Yeah, you got to figure
2.5.
2 or 3 hours, something along those lines.
So it's going to be great.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure. Before we get out tonight, we got a few minutes left. Want to get to this. This talk of Kenny Omega and the booking for the show that he did not too long ago. For those of you who aren't up on this story, Kenny Omega had a show that he was in charge of booking, and there was a dark match that went on prior to the show. And one of the wrestlers that was booked in that match, this was not booked by Kenny Omega. Apparently, there were a lot of these guys helping out with the crew, from what I understand, and somebody can correct me on the details if I'm off on this. Several guys helping out on the crew, and they asked if they could pick a couple of them to do a dark match prior to the show. And Omega, being the guy that he is, said, yeah, absolutely. Put a couple guys in there. We'll let you guys have a dark match. No problem. Well, come to find out, and I believe it was David Bixenspan on Twitter, mentioned that one of the wrestlers, and his name escapes me, but one of the wrestlers,
Rants.
There you go, that was in that match is a convicted sex offender. And this rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. The fact that a lot of heat came down on Kenny Omega at first because folks were thinking that he had booked this man in the match, and come to find out that it actually wasn't Omega that did it. But nonetheless,
it's not a good look.
He took credit for it. He took responsibility for it on Twitter, going so far as to apologize for any trauma that he may have caused any fans who were either watching the show live or had heard about it after the fact. Yeah. I wanted to get your take on this, and because we've seen this before with guys who have checkered pasts, and not necessarily in terms of convictions, but there's a lot of sexual abuse claims out there right now against guys who are currently not only in wrestling, but in very high-profile spots in wrestling.
I don't understand how this guy, and I've never met this Chasing Rants dude, this is the first I've even heard that he was convicted. I don't see how anyone still books this guy. I mean, like I've said before, all bells can't be unrung. Whether you did it or not, just to be in that position kind of jeopardizes your spot because no one wants to be associated because you never know. It's like you're condoning it. Even if he beats the case, it's like you're condoning what may have happened. So
let me play devil's advocate for a minute here, because there are people out there, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but I'm going to throw this out there. There are people who will say, Yes, he was convicted, but he paid his debt to society. He's got to register as a sex offender going forward. He's going to continue to pay that debt by having to do that. Isn't that enough?
No.
Isn't that enough that he...
No, because it's a business.
So you don't give him a second chance?
No, it's a business. I can't... If you have a business, you can't have things like that. Bad publicity is bad publicity. So you don't want to be seen as a company who thinks it's okay. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't know the details of whether it was like a rape or it could have been statutory, it could have been, anything, any number of things. But once you've been convicted of that, I have no use for you as a businessman.
I tend to agree with you.
I think, yes, he's paid his debts to society, and I'm not saying
there's something out there for him, but it's not with you.
Yeah, it would just not be with me, and it would not be in that. If it was up to me, it would not be in wrestling, because that's just a bad look.
I totally agree. I think, and you see it in companies such as the WWE, who's in a unique scenario in that they are now a $1 billion
publicly traded
company. And so we saw the situation with Enzo Amore come up where they immediately released him. We saw it with Rich Swann. They're very image conscious now, and they have to be.
Yeah, you have to be because you have investors and you have people who put money into your company and don't want that associated with them, and they will pull their money real quick.
And I'll tell you what, it's this funny story, actually. I said to my boss, who buys and trades stocks quite often, I work with an energy company here in Houston, and I sent him something right before WWE had started renegotiating their TV deals. And I said, hey, I know you buy and trade stocks. You might want to take a look at WWE, because he knew I'd do the wrestling stuff and everything like that. At that point, it was $38 a share. WWE hit over $75. This was back in May.
Yeah.
WWE hit over $75 a share this week. They've been crushing their all-time stock price high. It's unbelievable how much that company has traded upward. And so they can't afford to have that kind of thing happen. I thought it was a bit... I don't want to say I thought it was a bit much, because I don't mean to sound insensitive to people who have gone through that type of trauma, because I cannot even imagine what that has to be like. I can't imagine being related to someone who's gone through that kind of thing. I hate that Kenny Omega had to come out and apologize for this.
And I think he even went as far as personally refunding anyone who...
He did offer to refund anybody who said... I think this is shitty. I don't think this should have happened. And Omega said, I will refund that money. I think that's a classy move on his part. Yeah. But we see it, and you and I spoke about this prior to the show, because there's a new allegation out there about another very high profile wrestler that's floating around that you and I have decided not to talk about, because again, it is just an allegation at this point. One of the things that we talked about in the past on our show, and I'm curious to hear others' takes on this, is what is the right thing to do when these types of allegations come out? And the reason I ask that question is because one of the things that makes it so difficult, from all the studies that we see and all the things that we hear from people who have gone through similar circumstances, is that it's extremely difficult for women who are victims of sexual abuse to come forward, because they're victim shamed. And people don't believe them, or they say that they're in it for the money.
Especially when it's like a celebrity.
Exactly.
Or
and
someone of stature.
One of the things that we, especially as the male population, have to take a look at is how we react to these types of allegations, and how likely we are or unlikely we are to dismiss or believe a certain woman. At the same time, I'm a very strong proponent, I know you are as well, of innocent until proven guilty. And unfortunately, we live in a society where people are tried, convicted, and crucified on social media.
Yes.
And so my question to you and to our viewers, our listeners out there, how do we react in situations like this? I mean, is it best to... Because I feel like if you just sit on the sidelines and you don't say anything, you're not part of the solution. I'm not going to say that you're part of the problem, but you're certainly not part of the solution. So what do you do? I mean what can you say?
I think the only thing you can do is like what we're doing. Wait till more concrete stuff comes out before, and that's where I think media. And right now, when we do this show, we're essentially media, and it's our responsibility to not to report on this just sensationalism, to make sure there's facts and everything, because it could be just a baseless claim of someone who didn't like where they were at in the company or didn't like the fact that they were let go and this is what they're doing as revenge. It could be legitimately they're telling the truth. But I think when more media steps up and waits and not sensationalizes something just because they think, because we can honestly say who the wrestler we're talking about is, what happened, and views would probably go through the roof. Like, it'd be shared over and over and over.
Because, they're talking about this guy. Yeah, exactly.
But I think that it's irresponsible for us as media to totally do that until we know now, once their facts are out or it's the proven guilty or innocent, then yes, we will talk about it. But until then, I think that's what will solve the problem, is like media making sure that stuff is, solidified, there's proof, there's all of this before they just run with a story just because the name is kind of a bigger name.
And I agree with you. I think the problem in this day and age is that you don't even need that middleman of the media anymore because of social media and because of the access that people have to millions and media. Millions. Nonetheless, I don't have to go to a media outlet to get a story out there if I have 50, 100, 200,000 Twitter followers, and I can just put it up there, and next thing you know, it's all over the place. So there's a certain level of responsibility that has to be put on not only us as people who report these types of things and talk about these types of things, but upon the people going through the due process of having these things having these things tried, and having them play out in the legal system as they should. Because again, Twitter is not our legal system.
Yeah,
Reddit is not our legal system, and unfortunately,
too often you get convicted there. And I mean that's why things like Enzo happens. It turns out this chick was lying, and guess what? Now he's in a shitty rap career because he can't do wrestling anymore. Because guess what? You're toxic. No one wants to put a guy who was in a situation where he was accused of rape unless you're playing football. And then I guess it's okay.
It's not okay.
I mean, but it's never okay, but I'm just saying it
happens there a lot more than
it happens in football, but then they'll kick a guy out the league for kneeling.
Yeah,
I don't understand that.
Go figure. All right, folks.
We're getting too political here. This is not a political thing.
No, it is not. But
so back to wrestling.
We got the G1 special coming up on Saturday. We've got the Kenny Omega business hopefully behind him now, and we don't have to deal with that anymore. And of course, Extreme Rules, we'll be talking about that a bit more on our Monday show right after Monday Night Raw, right here on the Speez and the Benchmark program. So once again, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications,
click the bell,
spread the good word, and let everybody know that we are here. Thank you to Brooke, to David, to everybody else who joined us here live on the show. And we will look forward to seeing you guys next week. Silky, any parting words for the people before we get out tonight?
If you're in the Katy area, July 15th, come check us out, DZW at the Katie's Elks Lodge. You can look through my Facebook, which is at Silky Baines or at SilkyB63, and come out and see some good wrestling. You can see him as a referee. It's going to be good. I'm pretty sure you're going to be there, right?
Yes, I will be there.
Yes, he's going to be there. I put him on the spot. Now he has to.
And, of course, check us out on Twitter at Speez Benchmark. You can hit me up personally at Chris Spezak, at Benchmark Silky. And once again, folks, we thank you all for joining us here on the Speez and the Benchmark program. We look forward to talking to you on Monday night following Monday Night Raw. Silky, any parting words for the people before we get out tonight?
Come see me out in Katy. I need to pay these bills.
We will do so. Have a good night, everybody.